Have you ever noticed that your paycheck somehow buys less and less every month, even though the numbers look the same? You're not imagining it. Right now, all across the country, families are cutting back on groceries, skipping dinners out, and watching their savings accounts slowly lose the ability to cover even basic emergencies. While politicians and mainstream economists are busy debating inflation percentages, there's a much darker story unfolding. It explains why your grocery bill is up 40% for the exact same items you bought just 3 years ago. Let me show you a statistic that should make your blood run cold. Over the past 15 years, if you work for a living, your income has grown by roughly 30%. But during that same period, financial assets, the stocks and real estate owned mostly by the wealthiest 10%, have grown by over 600%. This isn't a minor difference. It's a chasm that is swallowing the middle class whole. The system is gaslighting you, telling you that everything is fine because GDP is growing and employment is stable. But the reality is that your purchasing power is evaporating through channels that official statistics are engineered to obscure. This is about a silent transfer of wealth happening in broad daylight. You open your bank account and see a higher number, but you feel poorer because you are. The system needs you to believe things are stable, because if everyone realized their standard of living is being systematically stolen, the entire structure would collapse overnight. We are watching the largest peacetime wealth transfer in human history, where value is sucked out of your labor and pumped into the assets of the elite. To understand why this is happening, we have to stop looking at the news and start looking at the math. There's a 4-stage mathematical pattern that has played out across 5 centuries of economic history, and it never changes. Stage 1 is the foundation and trust phase. This is where a nation becomes the center of global finance, its currency becomes the world standard, and confidence is absolute. Think of America after 1944. Stage 2 is overextension. Success breeds arrogance, and the government starts spending far beyond its means on military expansion, foreign interventions, and domestic promises it can't mathematically keep. Debt grows faster than the economy, but nobody worries because asset prices are hitting new records. Stage 3 is the silent exodus. This is where we are right now. The smart money, the massive institutions and billionaires who have breakfast with central bankers, realize the math no longer works. They don't announce it. They quietly move their capital out of the currency and into hard assets, while publicly telling you to stay invested. Stage 4 is the controlled demolition. This is the inevitable conclusion where the debt can no longer be serviced. The currency loses all credibility, and the middle class is destroyed as the system resets on new, more restrictive terms. We aren't in stage 1 or 2 anymore. We are deep into stage 3, where the collision becomes mathematically inevitable. The gaslighting statistics you hear on the news are merely the smoke and mirrors used to keep you in the burning building, while the insiders head for the exits. If you think America is immune to this, you haven't been reading the receipts of history. Look at Rome. Their currency, the denarius, started at 95% pure silver. As costs exploded, they did exactly what our government is doing. They debased the currency. By the 3rd century, the denarius was less than 5% silver. Prices doubled and tripled, trade collapsed, and the empire eventually disintegrated. Look at Weimar Germany in the 1920s. They had a thriving middle class until they borrowed heavily to fund a war. Facing impossible debt, they ran the printing presses. In 1921, $1 bought 75 marks. By 1923, $1 bought 4.2 trillion marks. Life savings vanished overnight. The middle class was annihilated. Look at the British Empire. The pound sterling was the world's reserve currency for over 200 years. But after the World Wars, their debt-to-GDP ratio hit 130%. America's is already at 124% and climbing. The smart money began a quiet exodus to America in the 40s and 50s. By 1967, the pound devalued overnight, and the former global superpower had to beg the IMF for a bailout. Every single time, the pattern is the same. Overspend, overborrow, print money, gaslight the public, and then collapse. The reason you feel like you're falling behind is that the official statistics are a lie. The government's inflation calculation, the CPI, uses a basket of goods that doesn't reflect real-world spending. It ignores or adjusts the skyrocketing costs of housing, healthcare, education, and insurance, the very things that dominate your budget. While they tell you inflation is 3%, your lived reality is closer to 10%. This is financial repression, a systematic theft where your savings account pays you 2%, while the real cost of living rises by 10%. That's an 8% annual wealth tax that never shows up on a government ledger. Our national debt has surpassed $38 trillion. The interest payments alone have crossed $1 trillion per year, more than we spend on our entire national defense. The government can't tax its way out of this, and it can't cut spending without a total social revolt. So they have chosen the only remaining option: silent theft through inflation. The insiders know this. While they tell you to keep your money in your 401k, the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, has moved over $1.4 trillion out of dollar holdings and into foreign assets and gold. JP Morgan has taken a $400 billion short position against U.S. government bonds. China has reduced its U.S. Treasury holdings from over $1 trillion to under $800 billion, while increasing its gold reserves by 70%. They are positioning for the end of the dollar era while you're being told to trust the system. The Federal Reserve is trapped in an impossible choice. If they keep interest rates high to fight inflation, the government drowns in interest payments and the stock market bubble pops. If they cut rates and print more money, they destroy the currency and fuel hyperinflation. They have chosen to destroy the currency to save the system. This isn't a guess. It's the only politically survivable path for them. They will blame corporations, Russia, or China, but the math says the call is coming from inside the house. So what do you do? First, understand the timeline. China has reportedly ordered its state-owned enterprises to fully divest from Western markets by November 2026. That is your window. Second, get out of pure dollar-denominated holdings. Cash is a depreciating asset. You must diversify into hard assets that cannot be printed into existence: physical gold, silver, and productive land. Third, invest in skills. In a systemic reset, your human capital is the only thing that cannot be inflated away. Learn practical skills that solve real-world problems. Fourth, build your community. The lone wolf is a fantasy. Survival during Stage 4 requires a network of people you can trust when official institutions fail. The system is gaslighting you because it needs you to be the exit liquidity for the elite. But once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. The mathematics of a $38 trillion debt are absolute. History is screaming the answer, and the countdown has begun. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and trust your experience over their statistics. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more updates.